If you're trying to quit smoking using willpower, you're making it much harder than it needs to be, and that's not your fault. That's what most people have been taught, especially in our society. You're told to tough it out, be strong, push through, just stop. And sure, willpower is useful. It has its place. It can help you get through a tough moment or resist something temporarily or make a decision in the short term. But here's the part nobody talks about. Willpower is not reliable. It changes based on how stressed you are, how tired you are, or how overwhelmed you are, about what's going on in your life, how much you slept, what kind of day you had, and even what emotions you're carrying around. So if your entire strategy for quitting smoking is built on willpower, I'll just let you know it's going to break at some point. Not because you're weak, not because you don't want it enough, and not because you lack discipline, but because you're trying to use a tool that was never designed for long-term change. Now, let me put it this way. Willpower is like trying to hold a door shut while someone is on the other side just keeps pushing against it. You can hold it for a while. You can brace yourself. You can lean your weight into it. You can even grit your teeth and say, nope, not today. But the moment you get tired, the moment you get distracted, and the moment life hits you with something unexpected, that door bursts right open. And then you're right back to smoking, feeling frustrated, feeling disappointed, and feeling like you failed. But you didn't fail. You were just using the wrong strategy. Because what actually works, it's removing the need for willpower in the first place. And if that idea alone feels like a relief, if you can feel your shoulders drop just a little from relief and you're thinking, God, that would make it so much easier, you can text QUIT to 650-389-3200 and we'll talk about how to do that. Because here's the truth. Smoking isn't a willpower problem. It's a subconscious pattern. Your subconscious is the part of your mind that runs your automatic behaviors. The stuff you don't even think about, and the stuff that just happens, like tying your shoes, or even a familiar route to work, or brushing your teeth, or reaching for a cigarette when you feel stressed, or bored, or after a meal, or when you're driving, or when you're around those certain people. You don't decide to do those things. They just happen. And that's because the subconscious runs on patterns. And smoking is one of those patterns. So when you try to quit smoking using willpower, you're basically trying to fight an automatic program with a manual override. And that's why it can feel like a battle. And that's why it feels like you're constantly resisting. That's why you feel drained. That's why your cravings feel loud. And that's why you feel like you're pushing against something that keeps pushing back. But when the subconscious pattern changes, you're not constantly resisting, you're not fighting yourself, and you're not trying to overpower that urge. You're just not pulled to it in the same way. It's like turning down the volume on cravings instead of trying to shout over them. Imagine that for a moment. The cravings don't disappear instantly, but they get quieter, less intense, less automatic, and certainly less emotional and less tied to your identity. You start to feel neutral. You start to feel a little more in control, and you start to feel like that cigarette isn't calling your name anymore. That's when quitting smoking starts to feel natural instead of forced. And that's exactly what hypnosis is designed to do. Hypnosis works directly with your subconscious, the part of your mind where the pattern actually lives. And that part that's been running the show without your permission. The part that learned to smoke as a coping mechanism. A routine. A comfort. A break. A reward. A moment of calm. And through hypnosis, We're not fighting that part of you. We're updating it. We're shifting the associations, and we're removing the automatic pull. We're changing the emotional connection. We're rewiring things so autopilot runs a different pattern than that old familiar smoking habit. And when that happens, you don't need willpower. You don't need to stay strong. And you don't need to constantly remind yourself why you're quitting. You just feel done. You feel ready. And you feel free of it. And that's when people say things like, this feels different. I'm not even thinking about cigarettes. I don't feel like I'm fighting myself anymore. I feel calm. I feel in control. And I feel like I finally broke the cycle. I love getting those text messages. If you're ready for that kind of shift, if you're tired of relying on willpower, and you're tired of quitting and restarting, if you're tired of feeling like cigarettes have more control than you do, text QUIT to 650-389-3200, and then we'll talk about what's been happening in your mind, why willpower hasn't worked, and how to finally change that pattern that's been running everything underneath all along. Because willpower isn't the problem, it's just not the solution. The solution is changing the part of your mind that's been keeping the habit alive. And once that changes, quitting becomes easier than you've ever thought it could be. So if you're ready, text QUIT to 650-389-3200. You don't need more force. You don't need more discipline. You don't need more effort. You just need the right approach. And once you have that, everything else becomes simple.